Hi all, let's look at game 11 of the World Chess Championship. So Magnus Carlsen playing white against Fabiano Caruana. So it's a match of 12 games. Once 12 games are reached, and if it was drawn in these last two games, then it will go to tie-break. So the pressure in the pressure cooker is increasing here. So let's see, e4 from Magnus, e5, knight f3. We see the Petrov's defense, very, very solid. Fabiano is very experienced in this. Knight takes e5, d6, knight f3, knight takes e4. So you can see structurally there's only one shared open file here. But this knight c3 has been used in recent years to spice up things with the potential for opposite side castling, which in general makes games a lot more interesting and entertaining. Knight takes c3, d takes. We have bishop e7, bishop e3. Black castles, queen d2, preparing to castle queenside. So knight d7 is played here. White castles queenside. And now knight f6. This is a little bit unusual. Caruana himself has played c6 before and had a great game, a cracking game, against Robson in the St. Louis tournament of 2018. He actually generated quite a lot of hack attack potential on the queen side. Just to quickly show that, first of all, h4 is another stem game going into Carlsen against Ivanchuk, but as well, that's interesting. So Carlsen's also played the white side of that position with h4. But Caruana with black here against Ray Robson, king b1, we saw actually black getting what looks to be a really ferocious kind of attack on the queen side with the bishops pointing like this. So this shows some of the dangers of opposite side castling actually, that for the cost of a pawn, black really did seem to get a major attacking potential. And the light square bishop in particular looks pretty dangerous. It was trying to be quenched here, and then there's this like vicious attack, and so yeah, it seems as though this is winning material now. So Caruana has experienced destroying basically the queen side in such a scenario. It is not without venom, this position for black once white castles queen side. Now there's d5, h4, so d5, this is Carlsen against Ivanchuk, this particular position, and Magnus went on to win that game. That was in Berlin 2015. There's also, after king b1, rook e8 is another important stem game to know about. Aronian against Caruana followed this, and it was actually eventually drawn in 28 moves. That was in Batumi 2018. So yeah, both players are highly experienced in this structure in this particular position. So knight f6 though, bishop d3, c5, and this makes way for the potential queen to hit the a2 pawn. It does mean that this pawn might be a little bit vulnerable on d6 later without the fallow pawn protecting it, and it is like a backward pawn on a semi-open file. So in general one should be kind of wary about such pawns. So, but it has certain plus sides. Rook he1, we have bishop e6 eyeing that a2. The king comes to protect this pawn, and now queen a5, and white has to be quite careful here. Magnus played c4, shielding a2 and offering exchange of queens. If we look at this position, if b3, then this is looking nasty c4. For example, this, then there's the energetic b5, and you can see that white's king could be totally obliterated and get mated quite easily. a3 here is much safer, and this position, white still has to be careful. Black seems to be getting in some very powerful forcing moves, and after d5 actually has a very dangerous threat in this position. If white's not careful here and plays h3, then bang, knight takes c3 check, bishop takes a3, and then queen b5 is mating. So, but there does seem to be here away instead of the kind of suicidal h3 to actually just play king a2, and apparently white should be okay here. This should be an okay position because the queen is indirectly protecting a3. There's no tactic, everything's held up, and white looks forward to using the d4 score with an even position at the very least. So anyway, but it looks a little bit scary. So c4, just getting the queens off. So queen takes d2, rook takes d2, bishop takes d2. But as I mentioned before, this structure is interesting for white, that backward pawn here, without the fellow pawns protecting it. h6 to stop knight g5 here. White ideally would like to get at least the bishop pair. So that starts. But now knight h4, eyeing both f5 and g6, and sometimes bishop f5 might be useful as well. We have rook e8. So to be able to answer knight f5 with the nifty bishop f8. So the knight went to g6. Sorry. If knight f5, bishop f8 here. But the knight actually went to g6, which is a very clever move on e6. Now, if there isn't a desperado because that pins the pawn, there's no f takes g, so that wouldn't be entirely clever. And nor would f takes be too wise here, it seems. Losing the light square bishop, black king having to defend g6, and then actually with rook e3 to f3, this maneuver is putting quite a significant amount of pressure. That loses the pawn. If the black king sticks around, white puts some pressure on f6, and then also prepares to sort of wrench open this f-file with this kind of move, f3 potentially coming up, or this method, just winning g4, is strong as well. So yeah, there's some good prospects there if black isn't extremely careful in this position now. But Fabiano plays a brilliant defensive move, knight g4, attacking both f2 and preparing to bounce via the central square to hit c4 to coordinate pressure on that c4 pawn. So very, very good response indeed. Knight g4. White takes out black's bishop pair and now defends this pawn with rook e2. If f3 is played, then the knight hops in actually to f2 here and then takes on d3, and this should be absolutely fine opposite kind of bishops, even position. So actually rook e2, then we have knight e5, so putting the pressure on, so white can't really keep the bishop pair. The bishop runs, then c4 drops. So bishop f4. Now here, getting rid of white's bishop pair, knight takes d3, and also you'll notice opposite coloured bishops. Black has to be careful not to fall in. It's not a bullet game, so knight takes c4 is unlikely to happen. That just loses a piece because of the pin. And the same with bishop takes c4. Just to put that on the board. So yeah, there's a pin piece here. So black has to be careful. Knight takes d3, just get rid of white's bishop pair. And again, that pin piece, there's no bishop takes c4, so we have rook d7. Now rook takes d6. Rook takes, bishop takes, so opposite coloured bishops. Now rook d8 is played. that would be a blunder. If the bishop took on c5, then there's rook d1, checkmate. Technical issue there. So yeah, that's not possible. So we have actually rook d2. Okay, so bishop takes c4, king c1. So the back row is not so unsafe at the moment. And you might be wondering about, is it any time possible to take on a2? Well, we have b6 being played, holding c5. And for the moment, the a2 pawn is not actually protected. Here we see bishop f4. Now, black actually took on d2 here, king takes. Okay, with a6, black is committing actually to a pawn sacrifice. You might think this is scary. And what about the pawn on a2? Let's have a look at taking the pawn on a2. First of all, b3 does actually tend to trap this bishop. White has two maneuvers, a bit like a Spassky Fischer game in 1972, to try and trap the bishop. And here, actually, the bishop does seem in a bad way after king b2. The bishop is kind of trapped. So either route actually works in this position. So king c3 or king c1, both routes actually work. If black, though, however, waits here, so a6, and here plays king f8. Sorry, instead of a6, play king f8, luring the bishop to b8, a6, bishop c7. It's here actually that bishop takes a2 might actually be possible, because if b3, there's c4, trying to break the bishop out, and it's not actually that easy to win the bishop here. If b4, c3 check with a fairly even position, pretty even, and so this position, if b4 is not working, if king c3, c takes, there's bishop b1, the bishop's escaping. So yeah, it seems as though that's slightly different, and the bishop's kind of doing okay here. On king c1, c takes, here there's b takes. That's the crucial difference, because now if king takes, this is queening. There's nothing to stop the queening. So yeah, there's some finesses here to do with a2, which maybe are interesting to consider. So a6 anyway, black is actually committing to a full pawn sacrifice, knowing that the blockade potential is really high when it's opposite color bishops. When you have a bishop without a counterpart, so you're stronger than the opponent on that, it's much easier to set up fortresses and blockades. So as we know from a lot of Leela chess games recently, where she's drawn in opposite coloured bishop endings or with the wrong coloured bishop. So here, black is committing to a full pawn sacrifice. So yes, a bit of drama here. A full pawn down, and Magnus actually does a bit of pressing here. So let's see. More than just high level shuffling. So puts a pawn potentially on c5 now to free his king up to explore the king side. And now the king can take a walk over to the king side, knowing that the pawn's protected. However, is black worried? Black believes in the fortress here. There's g4 being played to potentially try and get an outside pass pawn. Is this a dream though? H takes, king takes. This pawn needs to be knocked out for this one to be a dangerous outside pass pawn. Bishop a2, king g5, king bishop b3, king f6, bishop a2. We have h4. So Magnus is keeping the dream alive. f4, bishop a2, and he's got a trick up his sleeve coming soon. Here after f5, black needs to be playing carefully here, and plays the very careful bishop b1. If black took, then that would be bad news after bishop f4 indeed. So that would stop the bishop having any role in stopping this outside pass pawn, and the pawn just pushes through very simply to queen, winning. It also turns out, by the way, that the pawn doesn't even need bishop f4. This is winning anyway with king takes f5, because the king can actually herd the pawn here just in time anyway. The king gets the g7, and then white has enough to stop any dangers from black, and it's just the piece up there. So then there's a final trick. So we have bishop b1, and now bishop f2. So not being too keen to take on g6 immediately. So leaving another little trick in the position. Now here bishop c2 was played. Yeah, and the game was, after bishop c2 it was agreed drawn. If black had played bishop takes f5, then h5 is nasty. Again, winning for white. Yeah, because if g takes, then there's king takes f5, and that's winning for white. White's holding on to that c5. I'm just mopping up the pawns here. So anyway, the game was agreed drawn here. On, let's take this further. F takes. For any last final tricks indeed. King. If bishop takes, by the way. then there's potential for h5 still. So it's important to take with the pawn here. And on king, say king g5, it's important not to play bishop f5 again because of h5. So as long as the bishop hangs around here but doesn't actually go to f5 as a tactical liability, then it's fine. The pawn is stopping this h-pawn becoming a major killer outside past pawn. So anyway, yes, bishop c2, game agreed, drawn. So the last game of the classical portion of the match will be game 12, and after that there'll be a tie-break potentially on Wednesday. So I'm expecting tie-breaks, the fun of rapid chess. Magnus Carlsen has held the world champion status at both classical, rapid and blitz all at the same time as well. So he's like the only world champion in history to have done that achievement. So he is pretty lethal at faster time controls. And for me, I think Magnus is favourite to win the rapid when it comes to it. That's my personal favourite for Magnus Carlsen, actually, based on past results. Okay, so yep, it's only one game of the classical to go. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this analysis and got something from it. If you did, then please click the top left box, which should appear shortly, to become a member at chessworld.net to play against other YouTubers. You can check the analysis of this and other games on the improved menu learned from the Masters YouTube order. Comments, questions, donations, see description box. Likes, shares, subscribes with the notification bell. Really appreciate it. Thanks very much.